Welcome to Grown Folk Stories, y'all. Where's Keith B? Keith B, Keith B. Here he is. Give it up! Energy!
Hello, grown folks. So I grew up about a half hour from New York, in New Jersey. New Jersey, in the middle by the water, which is really the Jersey Shore, but we have a branding issue, so we talk about it as in the middle by the water outside New York. But in high school, it was time to apply to college, and I had the opportunity to go to Georgia Tech, where my now wife is. She's not here tonight, that's why I'm taping. Where I could go to Boston. And the only thing I really knew about Boston was that it was a really racist city. Like, that's how we thought about it back in the late 80s, early 90s. And they had like the Celtics, and everybody hated the Celtics in New York. And in my junior year of high school, the Stewart murder trials happened. And I don't know if you remember that, but it was a guy who was stopped at a traffic light, and a black guy jumped in the car and killed his pregnant wife and shot him. And he, called the police, and the police went crazy in the community. Boston went crazy. And, they were looking for a black man, between 5'6" and 6'6", 150 and 300 pounds. And the police were just rounding people up. They were just like, all of you, come with us. And they were rounding people up. So we're watching this from New Jersey, and they caught the guy. They caught the guy, and they pulled him out of the lineup, and apparently he was going to confess, he was going to go to jail. And like a couple weeks later, it turns out the husband killed his wife and shot himself. And people in Boston were pissed. They were like, he lied. And all of us were like, well, what about the confession?
Right.
How did they get that? And so that was Boston for me. So we're getting ready to go. So I decide to go to Boston, and I go to MIT, and I think, well, that's not the Boston I'm going to. I'm going to be around smart people. And right. And so I get to Boston, and right off the bat, I know I'm in a different city because there's one black radio station, and I had grown up in the tri-states. We had like Red Alert on Kiss FM every night, every weekend. And there's one black radio station, and it's solar powered, and it goes off at night. And you can't make this up. And when it goes off in Boston, it gets dark at like 5 o'clock. So you're coming home from class, they're like, "That's our show for tonight. Thank you for listening." What the hell am I supposed to do the rest of the night? Like I had an iPod. Right. So I'm like, okay, I'm in a different place. And first semester, I'm in physics class, and there's this professor French, and he's up there, and he's talking, and he's explaining, and everything I just talked about today was invented by white European males. I'm like, what did you just say? Like, what do you have to point that out? So we're like, okay, this is crazy. And it's coming from the professor. I don't have to worry about the people from God knows where. I got to deal with the professor. So we go through that, and it's fine or whatever. Second year, we get to campus, and some students, four black students, we all lived in the same dorm. There's a black living group at MIT called Chocolate City. And it's black folks. And it's in the dorm, and there's another section of the dorm, and between the two sections, we call it chocolate suburbs, between the two sections, there's like a third of the black students on campus live together. We live together. We go to class, and we come home, and we're home. And these students were walking home one night, and like out of this frat house, they just start yelling all this racial slurs at them. And we're like, oh, hell. So they call administration and campus police involved, and the police are like, well, are you sure you heard what you heard? Like, what are you talking about? Like, of course they heard it. So we get, the students are all up in arms, and it led to actually a really good discussion about race on campus, and it led to, we filmed a documentary for the black students on campus about what it was like being black at MIT in Boston. It's actually online. I found it last week. It's still online. And it led to a really good dialogue. So, things are starting to get better. And then the next thing comes up, right? So, that same year, like the Rodney King verdict happened. And, we met, we got to get the brothers together in Chocolate City, and we got to do something. And we had a protest, and we were on the front page of the Boston Globe. And a lot of our friends and my roommate was on the cover. And we talked about it. We talked about how upset we were. But a couple years later, my sister is now an underclassman on campus. And you have to understand, like when the way you learn there is they give you these homework assignments that take forever, and they crush you, and but you learn it there. You learn it when you're doing the homework, so you got to be in the zone, and you got to be thinking all the time. And here we go with the physics department again. The professor throws this problem on the problem set, and it's like, okay, so you're a civil rights protester, and the police turn water cannons on you. Please calculate the force of the water. We're like, are you kidding me? So we're like, get the brothers together again. So we get back to the dorm. We're like, what is wrong with the physics department? So we start, and at this point, we had made a big enough deal about everything that we could go where we needed to do to get things done. And I decided to, at this point I'm a senior, I'm like, I'm gonna go talk to the professor and see what's going on. And it turns out that he was a Polish immigrant, and his parents were actually protesters during the Nazis. And he was actually talking about his own family and his own ancestors and his parents. And what he was actually trying to do was get us to understand in a way that most people could never understand the sacrifice that those people made sort of getting hit and being under the cannons and running from, and he was actually trying to accomplish something totally different. And we had immediately, and he was horrified because we had already made our presence known on campus over the last several years, so when he saw us coming his way, he was horrified, because he was actually going the other way with it. And I had forgotten about this story until the Trayvon Martin shooting, which was crazy. But that incident at least made me think that every once in a while there's a chance that what looks obvious and looks like something's wrong, there might actually be another side to the story. Before you jump to the conclusion, you at least have to go ask. Right. And we went, and I talked with this guy, and I have the article from, I need to email him, but he actually put an apology letter in the paper and explained, like, I wasn't intending to offend, I was talking about my own family, and it just made me think, and with all the craziness with the shootings and everything that comes out of Florida these days, you try and keep an open mind, and you try and remember the lessons from when I was in school 20 years ago, but it's really hard. And I just wanted to share that, and that's my story.
Give it up! There's a lot that we tend to forget about that I think it's not just of our generation or even generations of the recent past, but we always think we're the first.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? We're not the first. I remember my first class in African history, and God, this would be forever. Anyway, her name was Dr. Jones. She was teeny tiny. She was from Kenya, and she was the most brilliant woman I had ever known. She was like 70 something, and she chose to teach at Columbia when she could have been at like Harvard or Yale or Howard, but she wanted to teach us. And she was like, do you please, it was me and a whole bunch of black people, and they were like, you're not black, and I'm like, well, shall we go into this? And and she was like, shall we? And I was like, oh, we shall. Anyway, she's like, slavery has been going on since the beginning of time. People always, because we're kind of fucked up. We're kind of fucked up. But in here, we're really good. We really are. You just gotta tap into it. You just have to tap into it. We have to start to end it now. Because it's been going on since the beginning of time. Let's end it. Eric is